This is our community. We need to take it back, and we will continue to fight as we've been doing for the last 3.5 years.
Tiffany Henyard's reign of terror has finally come crashing down. After years of allegedly using Dolton's funds as her personal piggy bank, the FBI has reportedly implicated her on a laundry list of charges. And it's clear she's not getting out of this one. Word on the street is that Tiffany's office was raided, and in one swift move, all the proof of her corruption was collected. It's only a matter of time before she's behind bars, with her days of living large on the town's dime finally over. The downfall we've all been waiting for has finally begun, and Tiffany's jail cell is practically waiting for her. 1. Tiffany. For the past 3 years, Tiffany Henyard has been wreaking havoc in Dolton, turning the town into a personal playground of corruption. But it looks like her time is finally up. Recent reports reveal that the FBI raided her office after investigators Lightwood allegedly collected all the evidence of her blatant misuse of power. Henyard's downfall has only just begun, and with the real charges leveled against her, she's looking at a hefty 25 years behind bars. And let's be real, her diva personality won't do her any favors in what's about to be a very rough future. The drama started when anonymous tabloids broke the story wide open after Henyard was a no-show at a special meeting organized by the trustees. It's clear that she was feeling the heat, and this is just the beginning of her long road to justice. Y'all, the heat is on in Dolton, and it's all pointing at Mayor Tiffany Henyard. In a shocking turn of events, Henyard was a no-show at a critical meeting called by village trustees. And guess what? While she was busy dodging the spotlight, the trustees weren't holding back. They took some major actions, cutting spending, approving business licenses, and even looking in a new firefighter's contract. All without her. But it didn't end there. Even though Henyard wasn't in the room, she was still the main topic of some serious public outrage. The comments came in scathing, and it's clear folks are fed up with her antics. It's safe to say skipping the meeting only put her in deeper hot water. One resident in attendance declared, "We have been fighting this demon for the last 3 years, and I did call her a demon, and I meant what I said. I'm not going to stop until she's behind bars." With Henyard nowhere in sight, the village trustees didn't waste any time taking sweeping action. They passed a temporary moratorium on travel and meal reimbursements for elected officials and employees, put tighter rules on check signing, and approved 18 business licenses that had been suspiciously held up. Clearly, they weren't playing around, but that's not all. The trustees also locked in a new firefighter contract that stretches through 2017, finally bringing relief to the union after going through 4 long years without one. And who do the firefighters blame for all those canceled bargaining sessions? You guessed it, Tiffany Henyard. It's obvious her absence has only further exposed the chaos she's been stirring up behind the scenes. Lieutenant Adam Farej, Dolton Fire Local 3766, also commended trustees for taking swift action.
The trustees did what they had to do, and it was slam dunk. Everything went very well.
Y'all, the last ally standing by her side may have just jumped ship, and that says a lot about the state of her reign. So here's what went down. Stanley Brown, a longtime ally of Henyard on Dolton's village board, hadn't shown his face in special board meetings in months. But last Thursday, that all changed. Brown showed up loud and clear to the meeting organized by the trustees. And if his presence wasn't already a major shift, his words sealed the deal. But let's be real, his attendance was a bold testament to his support for the trustees in their ongoing tug-of-war with Henyard.
I'm not here jumping ship, or I never was on the ship to jump the ship. Always been here. But I like to do what's right, and that's very important. And every resident in this village deserves that.
And if that wasn't enough, Henyard had tried to push through decisions at a meeting she held without the trustees last week. But the board wasn't going to let them slide. They declared every decision she made invalid. And to top it all off, after WGN Investigates exposed Henyard's lavish spending habits on taxpayer dollars, the trustees approved a moratorium to stop all travel reimbursements for elected officials and employees. It's clear Henyard's grip on power is far gone. Kiana Belcher said, "Taking these trips to all these conferences and bringing back absolutely nothing means you're just taking trips on the taxpayer's dime." Trustees also finalized action to fire Deputy Police Chief Louis Lacey, who pleaded not guilty last month to federal bankruptcy fraud charges. That same day, Henyard and Lacey were recorded telling officers he's still in charge of the department. But now the state agency, which certifies police officers, lists Lacey as inactive, with an August 14 separation date from Dolton Police. Good riddance.
This is our community. We need to take it back, and we will continue to fight as we've been doing for the last 3.5 years.
The meeting took on another serious turn when the Board of Trustees announced the village is now on the hunt for a new bank, thanks to, you guessed it, Tiffany Henyard. Last week, Henyard flat out refused to sign checks for vital services, which put the village in a dangerous spot. Jason House stepped in and signed the checks himself, as allowed by a recent ordinance, ensuring Dolton wouldn't come to standstills. But Henyard wasn't having it. In retaliation, she filed a complaint with the village banks, which responded by putting Dolton on a 60-day notice. House explained, "We signed the checks to make sure vital services continue, but because the mayor's office didn't like that, they called the bank, and now the bank isn't playing games." That's a black eye. And yet another example of how Henyard's actions are putting Dolton in serious risk, and the board is scrambling to clean up the mess. Another one of Tiffany Henyard's supporters who failed to show up at the trustee meeting was Andrew Holmes. Now, Holmes has always come across as a stand-up guy, well-known Chicago community activist and a trusted figure in the community. So you might be wondering, why on earth would he be siding with Henyard, right? Well, here's the ugly truth. Henyard was actually helping him conceal a serious SA lawsuit filed against him. Yeah. It turns out he wasn't sticking by Henyard out of loyalty. He was an opportunist, taking cover under her corrupt reign. The lawsuit, filed by a former Dolton employee and a Dolton police officer, accuses Holmes of SAing the female village employee during a business trip to Las Vegas on May 26, 2023. According to the lawsuit, after drinks with Holmes, whom the employee thought of as an uncle, she passed out in his hotel room. And get this, Holmes then called Officer Byron Miles, who was also on the trip as part of Henyard's security detail, to tell him the woman had passed out in his room. According to the lawsuit, Holmes began describing a host of his exploits from the trip, many of a S nature to Officer Miles. At some point during his rant, Trustee Holmes made reference to him engaging in S activities with a Dolton and Thornton employee, and there was some suggestion that the employee may not have had the ability to consent and or did not provide consent. Officer Miles could see that Trustee Holmes had his shirt off and appeared to have exerted himself. Trustee Holmes then panned the camera toward the bed where Officer Miles could see a woman who was partially undressed. The trustee then moved the camera to various private areas of the woman's body, displaying them on screen and at times moving or removing articles of clothing as he transmitted the images. With Henyard's empire crumbling around her and her own fate leading toward a prison cell, Holmes might not be too far behind. It's only a matter of time before his dark secrets come to light, and he too faces the consequences of his actions. Anyway, apart from the drama behind Henyard's supporters, her lawyer, Beau Brindley, also gave a statement regarding the trustee's sweeping action. He said, "This is not a legitimate meeting. It's an unauthorized effort by 4 trustees to circumvent the law and illegally usurp the powers of mayor. We will not attend such an illegal and unsanctioned meeting. The mayor will hold a press conference in the coming days at which we will directly address the illegal acts of these trustees and the consequences that will follow." 2. Henyard Party. Y'all, the alleged raid on Tiffany Henyard could not have come at a more fitting time, right as she was busy throwing an $85,000 taxpayer-funded party. And that's right, Henyard flew in R&B singer Keke Wyatt and rapper Jay Holiday for a mini concert at the Taste of Thornton Township last month. But despite the flashy guest list, the event barely drew a crowd. And get this, WGN Investigates dug up some shocking numbers under the Freedom of Information Act. Keke Wyatt was paid $30,000 for just 30 minutes of singing, and JJ Holiday raked in $20,000 for his half-hour set. On top of that, the township spent another $6,600 on inflatable bounce houses. Throw in comedians, sound systems, staff, and equipment, and the bill for the entire day skyrocketed to at least $85,769, all on the taxpayers' dime. Understandably, resident Jennifer Roberts, furious about the ridiculous expenses, said, "I was flabbergasted, I was pissed off. That was my money. That's the people's money." It's no wonder Henyard's shady dealings are finally catching up to her. That raid couldn't have come soon enough. Despite the circumstances, Henyard has defended her taxpayer-funded events as important to the 17 suburbs the township covers. This is all for the babies. They don't show you this side of Tiffany Henyard, the productivity. Interestingly, even her lawyer had no words for her surplus spending habits. However, Henyard's attorney, Beau Brindley, did insist that the picnic wasn't a campaign event, despite the name. On top of that, he claimed that Henyard even paid for some of the food out of her own pocket, but his claims fell flat when the food that was given away had all the hallmarks of a township event, with workers handing out boxes of turkey, yams, greens, and more. It's interesting that the Greater Chicago Food Depository was previously warned by the township not to use the food it provides for campaign or political purposes, so the little picnic didn't go exactly unnoticed. Well, another one of Henyard's people, pantry manager Keith Price, tried to justify the hallmarks by claiming that the food boxes came from township surpluses. Honestly, who do they think they're fooling? In response, the food depository sent representatives to the township's pantry to make their point crystal clear. Jim Conwell of the Greater Chicago Food Depository declared, "Our team did not see mixing of food depository products with event products. We reaffirmed our stance that food supplied by the food depository should not be used for political events or campaign activities." Now, if for a minute we consider that Henyard really paid for the pantry out of her pocket, then it's clear that she had a lot of money to spare. So one could argue that why did Tiffany use taxpayer dollars as her personal piggy bank when she could afford all those luxuries on her own? Apart from Jim Conwell, Keith Price, and the lawyer, there is another person who is more than happy to defend Henyard's spendings. Dolton trustee Andrew Holmes claimed, "If there's anything that was criminally done, it will be out there. The children are having fun, the families are having fun, and things are getting done. I'm not going to answer any questions about any of that. I'll let law enforcement handle that in this case, so do what they have to do." While her minions are coming up with various excuses, Henyard is as unfazed as ever, and is trying to dismiss the backlash by labeling stories about her spending and confrontational style as fake news and clickbait. "God put me here," Henyard said from the party. "God wanted me to lead the people. God knew that I would take no mess. He knew that I would stand strong in the fire for you." As the saga surrounding Tiffany Henyard couldn't get any more jaw-dropping, Chicago's former mayor Lori Lightfoot now joined the fray, and her findings are nothing short of scandalous. Lightfoot was hired by the Dolton Village trustees to investigate Henyard's chaotic reign, presented the shocking results of her ongoing investigation into the mayor's reckless spending. I know how I felt when I started seeing some of these numbers, so I can imagine how all of you are feeling after all this time in the dark. The investigations revealed that under Henyard's leadership, Dolton's financial health took a nosedive, from a surplus 2 years ago to a staggering $5.5 million deficit. And while Lightfoot has only scratched the surface, what she uncovered is damning. 3 Amazon purchases in one day totaling over $43,000. An unexplained $7,699 Wayfair purchase, and PayPal money transfers and gift cards all charged to the village. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Henyard's well-documented love for luxury travel was also exposed. WGN Investigates revealed $67,000 in unexplained travel expenses in just 4 months, some of it first class, including a lavish $9,000 stay at a Four Seasons hotel. And who was footing the bill? Dolton taxpayers, of course, while Henyard and her entourage indulged in expensive meals of lobster and crab legs. Despite the mounting evidence against her, Henyard has continued to shout down her critics, insisting she's the leader Dolton needs. But these bombshell revelations keep on coming, and it's clear that her leadership has come at a massive cost to the village. "I ran to lead. You guys keep telling me what to do. We're not going to do that. I do not handle anything as it relates to credit cards. As you heard me to speak today in my board meeting, I do not handle that." Maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I know, a leader doesn't use taxpayer dollars as their piggy bank. Trustees in Dolton have taken multiple steps to limit her ability to spend after discovering the village is facing a multi-million-dollar deficit. Trustees have instituted layoffs, and they're now saying that they're crafting their own budget to try to get the village finances in order. And most of the contracts for the Taste of Thornton Township were signed before trustees put spending controls in place. Dolton resident Sherry Britton said, "Tiffany is a narcissist. She's going to do whatever she wants. I feel like she knows this is over, but she's going to go down kicking and screaming like an MMA fighter. It's not going to stop till they put the cuffs on her." During a heated argument with Henyard over the party funds, Trustee Gonzalez made it clear he was uncomfortable with how much money was being spent on the event. But the situation took a turn for the worse when it was revealed that before any sanctions or approvals were even on the table, Henyard had already blown through the funds. "We had just a couple of events here in the last month or so where exorbitant amounts of money were spent unnecessarily. A lot of that spending was done on credit cards, and we just don't agree with so much being put on credit cards. And it looks like stuff that we voted not to pay was put on the credit cards. So it's just kind of almost like a shell game, unfortunately." Henyard didn't hold back in slamming the recent actions by the trustees to limit spending and implement a new credit card policy. With the township's 5 sitting trustees absent, her attempt to call a special meeting was more like a soliloquy. She was practically talking to herself. "I'm about to address some things. There'll be no comment, no anything, just me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on. If you want me to leave, you can leave. This is me making my statement. You don't want to hear it, there's the door." She claimed that after the ordinance passed, all the welfare activities were ground to a halt. They were not able to get services, products, gift cards for Big Bingo. This town was not even able to buy ice cream for the seniors. They had an ice cream social held at Calumet City. They could not buy ice cream. You thought it was just a way to stop Tiffany Henyard, but it was basically a way to stop the services here in Thornton Township. However, Gonzalez knew Henyard would try her best to create drama, so when the ordinance was passed in the previous meeting, he said, "If the administration can adhere to some financial limits, we're not looking to necessarily cut stuff out. However, if you're going to make a decision to do things that benefit the administration rather than help the people, that's your decision." Well, fans are right beside trusting Gonzalez on this one and are rooting for justice to be served. How she really thought she could do so much harm to an entire city, and then what? I guess she didn't stop to think about anything because she really thought she could go on living her little fabulous lifestyle without any repercussions. Crazy. Another added, she deserves to be forced to pay back every penny. Then she should have everything she stole sold to pay back the debt. Then the next 30 years in prison for her crimes. That's it for today. See you at the next one. Goodbye.